Um, hey there, Aquarius. If you happen to pause here, there might be a reason for that. Lately, you may have been feeling something a little different, hard to name, hard to explain. Everything on the outside still looks the same. Life keeps moving, just like it always has. But inside you, it feels like something is quietly shifting direction. A few thoughts keep coming back more often. A few old connections suddenly cross your mind. And sometimes, you catch yourself pausing, just for a moment, asking quietly, what is really going on with me? You know, there are moments in life when nothing changes all at once. No big turning point, no clear sign. But in a very subtle way, things begin to move, softly, gently, just enough for you to feel it. And then, it might only take something small, a phone call, a message, or a moment you didn't see coming, for everything to no longer feel the way it used to. And maybe we begin right there, with that familiar feeling, the one you can't quite explain, but somehow you recognize it. There are seasons when you move through your days just like you always do, but inside, there's a feeling you can't quite name. It's not exactly anxiety, not clear enough to call it change. It's just that things don't quite fit the way they used to. Conversations that once felt full now seem to miss a beat somewhere. No one says anything wrong, nothing is obviously broken, and still, you can feel it. Something isn't fully there anymore. Plans that once felt certain, when you look at them now, don't quite hold the same place. Not because you chose to walk away, but more like you've been quietly shifting. Yeah, without even noticing when it began. And the strange part is, no one really sees it, except you. In your own Aquarius way, you don't react right away. You observe. You take a small step back, creating just enough distance to notice the current underneath everything. You may not understand it yet, but you can feel it. It doesn't arrive as a loud moment. There are no clear signs announcing its presence. It's just a subtle misalignment, like a clock that keeps ticking, but somehow time doesn't carry the same meaning anymore. There are evenings when you sit alone a little longer than usual, not because you're sad, but because you're listening to something deeper within you, a question without words, a feeling not fully formed, a thought that keeps returning, even though you never tried to hold on to it. And slowly, you begin to realize, maybe what's changing isn't the world outside of you, maybe it's the way you're seeing it. Things that once felt important don't carry the same weight anymore. Things you once overlooked start to feel more meaningful. Not because life suddenly became different, but because you are. And this shift, it happens slowly, so quietly, almost no one notices. But you do. It's like standing at the edge of the ocean. The surface looks still. The wind is soft, but somewhere far out, the tide has already begun to turn. You don't need to see a crashing wave to know. Something is moving, and maybe, in moments like this, what matters most isn't finding the answer right away, but allowing yourself to stay with the feeling a little longer, not rushing, not trying to explain it. You just gently recognizing you're stepping out of an older version of yourself, and even if it's not fully clear yet, even if it doesn't have a defined shape, somewhere deep within you, you've already begun to understand. A different path is quietly opening. Aquarius tends to see the world through the lens of logic. You like to understand things clearly, to analyze, to connect the dots. There's a sense of comfort when everything can be explained in a way that makes sense. But then, there are moments when your mind seems to move just a step behind. Not because you've lost your clarity, but because something else has already spoken first, very quietly. You may have caught yourself wondering, am I overthinking this? Or is something actually reaching me? And you pause for a moment. Because this feeling, it doesn't move like your usual thoughts. It isn't loud. It doesn't push. It arrives like a soft breeze, so light you could miss it if you weren't paying attention. A passing feeling in the middle of something ordinary. A thought that returns. Not once, but again and again, even though you never tried to hold on to it. A name suddenly crossing your mind, a memory you thought had faded, a connection you believed you had already moved beyond. And yet, somehow, it's still there. And what unsettles you isn't what these things are. It's the way they keep returning. They don't demand your attention, but they don't leave either, like a quiet signal, repeating itself over and over until you finally slow down enough to listen. Maybe you tried to make sense of it, to find a logical reason, and to place it inside something familiar, but the more you try to explain it, the more it feels like it doesn't fully belong to logic. And then there's a very subtle moment. You stop trying to figure it out. You just observe. You notice when the feeling appears, in what kind of moments, in what kind of space, and what it does inside you. No need to label it, no need to define it, just allowing it to be there. And in that quiet space, you begin to realize something. Intuition isn't here to replace your logic. It simply arrives a little earlier. It doesn't ask you to believe right away. It only gently suggests that there may be another layer of meaning beneath what you can see. And maybe the most interesting part is, you weren't searching for any of this. You didn't open that door on purpose. And yet, somehow, these signals still found their way to you. Naturally, right on time, like a thought brushing against you, not to be answered immediately, but just enough to make you notice that something within you is slowly becoming clearer. And then, after all those subtle signals, something a little more tangible begins to appear. Not a big sign, not a dramatic, faded moment like you'd see in a movie, just your phone lighting up, a familiar sound, a simple vibration. And yet, somehow, that moment carries a different kind of feeling. Maybe it's a name you haven't thought about in a long time, someone who once passed through your life and quietly faded away. Or maybe it's just an unknown number. Nothing about it that should really stand out. Or even a short message, arriving at a moment you weren't expecting at all. And you pause. Not because you're surprised, but because something inside you becomes very still. A small space of silence appears, like time slows down, just enough for you to feel things more clearly, before making a very simple choice, to answer, or to let it pass. No pressure, no clear reason, just a feeling, subtle and hard to put into words. And maybe what matters here isn't the content of the call, not what they say, not how the conversation might unfold, but the feeling it carries when it touches you. Something familiar and yet distant. Like walking past an old street you haven't seen in years and suddenly realizing you still remember every turn. Like hearing an old song and, without trying, the memories find their way back. That call, in its own quiet way, doesn't just connect you to another person. It connects you to a part of yourself, a part you once set aside, not because you wanted to forget, but because you thought you had already moved on. And yet, some things don't truly disappear. They simply step back, waiting for the right moment to return. And when they do, they don't arrive loudly. They just brush against you like a gentle reminder that there are doors within you that were never fully closed. And what matters isn't whether you choose to open that door again. It's that you've realized it's still there. Maybe you'll answer, maybe you'll let it go. Both are valid, because sometimes the true meaning of a moment isn't found in what you do afterward. It's found in what you felt while it was happening. And maybe that small, almost unnoticed moment is the beginning of a very subtle shift within you. No need to understand it right away. No need to name it, just noticing this. Something has touched you, and you're no longer exactly the same as before. And after that moment, everything may still look exactly the same. You still wake up in the morning, you still move through your usual routines, you still see the same familiar faces. Nothing feels dramatically different, at least on the outside. But within you, a very subtle movement has already begun. Not loud, not obvious, just you're no longer seeing things the same way you used to. We often believe that life-changing moments arrive in ways we can easily recognize. A big decision, a defining event, a moment that makes you certain. This is it, things are changing. But over time, as you move through more experiences, you begin to notice something else. Many of the most important shifts don't arrive like that. They don't enter your life with a loud announcement. They come quietly. They begin with a short conversation, one you didn't think meant much at the time, a passing comment that somehow stays with you longer than expected, a glance, a pause, a connection returning. Not in the way it used to be, but in a way you've never quite seen before. For Aquarius, turning points rarely look like destiny. You don't need a big sign to know something is changing. You feel it through the smallest things, in the way you respond a little differently, in the way you listen a little more deeply, in the way you no longer rush to conclusions like you once did. And then, there are moments when you pause, not because you have to, but because something inside you is asking to be seen again. Or an old thought, held in a new perspective, an old story, suddenly carrying a different meaning, a person you thought you understood, now revealing a deeper layer. These changes don't demand immediate action. They simply appear gently, like a quiet suggestion. No pressure, no urgency, just opening the door to another possibility. And what's interesting is, you don't have to be certain about it. You don't need to know where it's leading. You only need to notice this. Something within you is beginning to think differently, very gently, but enough to create a new direction. Like turning the wheel just slightly, the road ahead may still look the same, but the destination is no longer what it once was. And maybe that's how many real changes begin. Not with a moment that turns everything upside down, but with a single, quiet thought that changes the way you see the world. And then, after all those quiet shifts, you may begin to notice something. You still don't fully understand what's actually happening. Everything feels just enough for you to sense it, but not clear enough to truly name it. Maybe you've tried to piece things together, to find a complete meaning, to see it all as one clear story. But still, everything remains there, unfinished, undefined, and maybe that's what makes you pause. Not because you're afraid, but because you're used to understanding things before you move forward. That's how Aquarius often is. You want to see the bigger picture. You want to know where you're going. You want to feel certain that what you're sensing can be explained. But this time, things don't seem to move in that familiar way. That there are signals, without explanations, feelings rising, without a clear reason, connections returning, without telling you why. And there you are, standing in the middle of it all, with a very simple question. How am I supposed to understand this? And then, something very subtle happens. You stop trying to find the answer. You just sit with yourself. No analyzing, no rushing, just listening. Listening to the feeling as it is, listening to thoughts as they come and go, listening even to the silence that you may have once ignored. And in that slowing down, you begin to realize something different. Not everything needs to be understood right away to have meaning. Some experiences are enough just to be felt. Some moments don't arrive to be decoded. They arrive to open you. And maybe what matters most in this space isn't knowing what comes next, but how you are with yourself right now. You didn't ignore that feeling. You didn't push it away. You allowed yourself to pause and truly listen. And in its own quiet way, that is already a shift. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has the patience to stay with what isn't clear. But you did. And maybe you don't even realize it, but that choice has opened something new within you. A space where you don't have to control everything. Where you don't have to understand it all. You just exist. There are journeys that don't begin with answers. They begin with permission. Permission to not know. Permission to let things unfold in their own way. Permission to keep walking, even when you can't see the whole path yet. And maybe it's the most beautiful part of all of this is you're still here, still listening, still feeling, still open in your own way. And sometimes that alone is already a very meaningful step forward. And then life continues. Everything doesn't stop just because of a single moment. There's no clear line where you can say, from here, everything will be different. You keep moving the way you always have, still making small choices each day, still living within familiar spaces. But maybe at some point, you slow down and gently look back. And in that quiet reflection, you begin to notice something very subtle. It wasn't a big change that happened all at once. No explosive moment, no obvious turning point you can clearly remember. Just something has shifted, very softly. A different perspective when facing the same old situation. A different feeling when remembering something that once stayed heavy within you. A different choice. Small, but no longer the same as before. And somehow, those small things begin to connect. Not in a straight line, not according to any plan you once made, but in a way that feels natural, so quiet you might miss it if you're not truly present. Little by little, the path begins to turn, not because you forced anything to change, but because you've changed the way you show up within it. Others may not notice. Even you may not notice right away, but inside, you don't react the same way anymore. You don't hold on to what no longer fits. You don't return to places you've already outgrown, not because you're trying to be different, but because you've become a version of yourself that no longer belongs to what once was. And that doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't need validation. No one needs to confirm it. It simply feels more true to you, like stepping into a new room and suddenly you can breathe more easily, even if you can't explain why. Like choosing silence in a place where you once would have spoken, and for the first time, that silence doesn't feel heavy. Like looking back at something that once mattered so much and realizing it has already fulfilled its purpose. No resistance, no regret, just understanding. Some things in life don't arrive to change you all at once. They touch you once, and then stay with you long after, quietly adjusting your direction through small choices, through passing thoughts, through the way you begin to see yourself. And one day you realize you've come farther than you thought, not because of one big leap, but because of many small steps that happened in silence. And if you're here, moving through all of this, maybe you don't need to rush toward a conclusion. Just keep listening, keep walking, in your own way. Because sometimes the right path isn't the most obvious one. It's the one that slowly brings you closer to who you truly are.